So, Alexander, we start now the stream for Facebook and YouTube. So now everybody can see us and hear.
Okay, wonderful.
And so, yeah, welcome to Berlin. Oh, I know you stay in London at the moment. And it's a great pleasure to have you again for a special plantation tasting. I had the opportunity to taste the three extremes in Paris. It was really nice. And so we have to take the three extreme rums, and we have three new one as well, right?
Yes.
So we have six different rums in total. And yeah, Alexander, so you can start. Please let me know when you like that people take the rum, because I have to describe which bottles they have to use. They have only small bottles with numbers, and I have to announce which one.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure, and thank you to the Rum Depot. This is wonderful. I love doing this. I would prefer to do it in person, so we have to promise each other. You know, at one point we'll do that.
Mütter,
But you guys,
kannst du mir kurz helfen?
Can you?
Ja, okay, nicht. Alles gut.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. So I really want to say thank you, and I want to say it's very impressive that you organized this tasting, and also you decided to open the 1986. I must say that I don't drink this 1986 very often, and even though we make it, so it's a collection piece of Barbados, a very unique rum we're going to be tasting today. We are going to be tasting, of course, also three single cask. What I want to explain, I mean, I saw somebody having a beautiful backdrop, and I thank him with the plantation vintage. As you know, plantation means a lot to me, and maybe there's a few plantation addicts here, being here at the show, and this is really a pleasure for me. We have a plantation, as you know, we have the blends. So I'm a master blender by training. When you create a blend, what you're trying to do is balance elements of rum, so it's a beautiful rum, right? So you're trying to create the sophistication, the depth, and so on. This is when you do a blend, whether it is the XO, whether it is the Jamaica Special Dry, whether it is the Isle of Fiji, or even 3 Stars as a white rum. Now, when you have a vintage, so think of a blend as being like a beautiful dish or a painting, of assembling any elements. Now, when you do a vintage, it's more like a sashimi. It's like one expression in a very pure form, and that's why it's limited. A few barrels, and as you know, in the vintages we have the number of barrels available. Today we're going to go even deeper. We're going to taste some single casks. So every year the team and I create 12 to 15 different editions of single casks. So and today we're lucky, we're going to try 3 of them together. And then once in a very while, every 2 to 3 years or every 1 year, it depends, we do what we call the extreme. So the extreme is when we think there's a barrel that's just perfect on its own. So for example, here, I'm holding in my hand the 1986. This is a beautiful baby, just a few hundred bottles, and we're going to be tasting this today. And I'm really excited that we're going to be tasting this today. So an extreme is just when a barrel we think is just perfect on its own, and so very, very rare. And again, today 3 single casks and 3 extreme. Now to jump in the single cask, what are we trying to do? What is the conception of this? It's very simple. Today, 99% of rum, more than 99% actually, is aged in a bourbon barrel. While there's nothing wrong with a bourbon barrel, long time ago, rum used many type of barrels: wine barrels, cognac barrels, Armagnac barrels, and they recycled the barrels, right? And these are the last day of rum. And my dream when I created Plantation in 1999 is to say, why not use cognac barrels as well, additionally to the bourbon barrels? And as you know, when you use a bourbon barrel, it's all whiskey that's inside the wood. I don't know if you know, but when you put the rum inside, the whiskey inside the barrel, or the spirit inside the barrels, some of that is going into the wood, about 2 to 3%. So it's not nothing. And American oak also has relatively sweet notes of vanilla and whiskey lactone, which is like coconut. Now, French oak, the cognac barrel, it's French oak, so a little spicier and structuring. And then also in the wood, you don't have bourbon, you have cognac, so a different take and different level of sophistication. Now, in the old days, obviously, people reused barrels. They didn't throw them away. So while we're celebrating, and today we will taste with you a beautiful Trinidad, that is a single cask with a special barrel that we'll talk about. And then we'll do a Jamaica, and then a very rare Australia as well. That is, for the super geek, Schizosaccharomyces pombe yeast. So it's a yeast that actually doesn't exist anymore in Australia for the moment. And that was borrowed from Jamaica almost 100 years ago. So it's also very, very rare and special rum we're going to be tasting. Now, if you want, maybe the best way, and I don't know if Dirk, you agree with this, but maybe if there are questions, we can do them at the end, maybe if that's okay. So don't hesitate to write down all your question. And Dirk, you okay with that? And
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Benoit also, so
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
And so, that way, don't hesitate to ask questions. I'm the guy making the rum with the team, so there's no bad questions. So feel very free to go with that. I love questions, and if you think about a question, it needs to be asked. Obviously that's something that would be great. So again, now we're going to jump in the single cask. So this one, I'm going to take you to Trinidad, and maybe as I speak, I have here with me Jules. We're going to throw a few pictures so we can illustrate. I want to tell you about something. I want to tell you about a story about me, my first experience as a distilling, watching distilling. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I was 10 years old. I grew up on the farm with my grandparents. And when I was 10, my grandfather, who was a distiller of Mar de Bourgogne. I don't know if you guys know Mar de Bourgogne, but if you don't have hair on your chest, maybe it will grow it if you drink it, because Mar de Bourgogne is more like a grappa, right? It's the when you press the grapes, the must, that is left, because on the farm, you don't let anything go. That's watered and fermented for making when you distill a spirit. Now, my first experience was my grandfather says to my grandmother, 10 years old, I'm going to show the kid the distillation. And I was 10 years old. And when you're 10 years old, you're small and everything seems so big. And imagine I grew up with my grandparents, and so the authority. And we go in a room that actually now is a little room, but it seemed a big room. And there was a raw material there. And he said to me, first, you taste Mar de Bourgogne with your ears. And I was a little kid thinking, I'm going to taste with my ears. This is horrible. And he says, listen. And we listened, and there was no noise. And I said, I can't hear anything. And he said, exactly. The raw material is fresh. It's perfect. And because if you hear insects, your raw material is corrupted. And what he was trying to tell me, and what he said was, to make a beautiful distillate, you need to care about what you distill. So, to me, that was very defining. Later on, obviously, I was 10 years old and I was, happy to be out of the room. But when I started distilling, and, always thought, it's great to understand what we are distilling. So that's why when we make cognac, we have our own grapes. And when we distill gin, Citadel, we have our own juniper berry fields. And with rum, you will see some of you follow plantation, what we're doing. You'll see us more and more involved with growing what we distill. Yes, we distill molasses, which is very classic of rum, and I love molasses rum. But, that's something that I wanted to share with you. So, now we're going to go. I'm going to take you, if you want to grab the first glass and your first bottle. I have brought my little glasses with me, knowing that, tulip-shaped glasses. And we're going to try together the Trinidad 2011 single cask at 43% alcohol. So Dirk,
das
I
ist,
don't know which
Entschuldigung, sorry, Alexander, so das ist die Flasche Nummer 4, mit der wir jetzt beginnen. Also eure Flasche Nummer 4 ist unsere Nummer 1. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And so, we're going to taste this. Remember, that is what we call a single cask. So what we did here, we are a typical Trinidad rum, but I want to share a little secret with you about Trinidad. The Trinidad rum, yeah, you see it on the picture. That's the one here, the bottle that we see here. And my first trip to Trinidad was many years ago. I want to say 28 years ago and something. And imagine I was a young guy from Cognac, and in Cognac, we think the pot still is the king. This is the best way to distill. And really, in Trinidad, I just saw a Collins still. And I'm like, okay, these guys are cutting corners. But then I got to taste the rum. And I was like, really, what is happening between this still? I don't know if you have a still about Trinidad, but this still and the result of the quality of the rum. And I really kind of asked all the questions to the master distiller at the time. And he told me, and you're going to be tasting this with me today when we taste it. He told me his secret. And I can share the secret with you now. When they use this relatively, it's a big column that makes a light rum, he draws some rum from lower plates in the column that are element of flavors. They call that esters. It's not really an ester. It's a very intense, delicious taste once you blend it. On its own, it's kind of strange. And here it is reintroduced in the rum before aging. And so when you taste Plantation Trinidad, it's a very specific plantation. It's a plantation that's very full of, it's a Trinidad full of flavors. So we're going to be tasting this together. And you can see I'm going to be, so this is 43% alcohol, and as you see, with plantation, each rum has a different proof. It is aged, it's a vintage 2011. It is aged 9 years in a bourbon barrel in Trinidad, 1 year in a Ferron cask in Cognac, and then 3 months in a Sauterne barrel. Why a Sauterne barrel here is because this is a big rum, what we call volatile substances. This is the element of flavors, for an industrial vodka, element of flavors is 9 grams per hectoliter, right? 9 grams. This one is 552. By law, American whiskey has to be minimum 120. So it's quite a big rum, a big delivery. But I thought it was so delicate, still in its sophistication. And also, I felt that it would work. These exotic, delicate notes would work so well with the Sauterne barrel. Right? And so this is really, to me, a typical Trinidad, but with a very special intensity. So I don't know if you agree with me, but when I taste it, I got, of course, notes of exotic fruits, mango, a little citrus in, but of course, I got a little bit of a honey notes that comes from the Sauterne barrel. And by the way, if you want to, we can also talk, if Dirk is okay with me on this, we can, once we taste the rum, I can pause and you guys can ask questions about this specific rum, right? And the questions about production, maybe we can do at the end, but maybe we can pause as we're doing this rum and we're going to comment together about what it is. What we call the esters that are the element of fruits are 138 grams. So that's quite an estery rum for Trinidad. And I don't know if you feel both the conjugation of these exotic notes and then, of course, the beautiful notes with that aging in a Sauterne barrel. Now, my little secret about the Sauterne barrel, when you use a wine barrel, I don't know if we have whiskey fanatics here around this table. I hope it's mostly rum fanatics, but we love the whiskey fanatics as well. If you like good things, you like good things, right? But I want to tell you one thing. Is what we are very privileged with Plantation because we are right next to Bordeaux and right next to many vineyards. So when we do the second aging in Cognac, when you use a wine barrel, there's one secret. I can tell you as a master blender, you have to believe this. The wine barrel has to be totally fresh. Remember what my grandfather said, your material has to be of high quality. Now, if you use a Sauterne barrel and you ship it all the way to the Caribbeans, by the time it happens to the Caribbeans, imagine if you leave a bottle open, it's hot, it's at sea, the barrel will be corrupted. It's going to be very oxidized, very simple to imagine. And the solution to this is to either add a little sulfur or a little acidity in the barrel, but we don't like sulfur and we don't like acidity in the rum. So this is why we are, by using this Sauternes barrel right where we are in Cognac, we can fill that with the rum right away. So, that's why you don't have some of these notes. I was with a whiskey writer at Whisky Live in Paris about a week and a half ago. And he was telling me that some of the barrels you can see and you can taste, it almost smells like a wet dog, or these sulfur notes that are not good. And of course, here you don't have that because these, the Sauternes barrel is very, very fresh. So that's very important when you use a wine barrel. I've used Pauillac, Chateau Latour, for example, where again, the same day it's emptied, the same day it has to be full.
According to you, would there be a way to get rid of this sulfur notes once your barrel is corrupted, or is the barrel just good to throw away?
That's a great question. Different master blenders are going to have a different answer. According to me, and I like the fact, Benoit, you know me well, according to me, the idea is that once you have sulfur, to me, it's corrupted. Now, some master blenders, I want to be really, really transparent with you, will disagree with me because they'll say they're going to rinse it so well and they're going to clean it to get rid of the sulfur, right? But if you get rid of the sulfur, then you're going to really make it, is it still a Sauternes barrel? Because you're going to have to really totally pressure wash it inside. You're going to have to treat it very, very specifically. And so that's a big dilemma. People don't realize, and if you taste some whiskeys, Scotch whiskeys, and I say that respectfully, but you will see the wine barrels are not always a success for this very reason. Now, Scotch whiskey is a cold climate, so if they ship in the winter and they ship very fast and it arrives and they fill it right away, and it's a fresh barrel, it's okay. But, it's taking a lot of risk, where in our case, we can do this. But my point of view is once there's sulfur in a barrel and once there's citric acid, this is the other possibility, then you need to clean it so much, then is it really an authentic, I'm asking a question, is it really an authentic Sauternes barrel? For us, the best way is to be closer if you use wine. Now, if you use port, if you use fortified wines, it's stable, as the wines are, if you use, Banyuls, and that is also oxidative aging. So it's okay, right? Because they're higher in proof and stuff. But if you use wine barrels or beer barrels, as a matter of fact, you have to do it right away. I know by experience, and I've seen it many times. So when we do the single cask collection, to us, that's really important to do that.
And Alexander, for example, with the Sauternes barrels, it is coming in 1 or 2 days to Cognac from the south of France. What is the timeline?
Yeah, that Sauternes region is right next to Cognac, about 2-hour drive. So, the minute it's poured out, it's in the truck and it's coming to Cognac.
So very far then.
Yeah, very far. And, the one when I use a winery, I told you Pauillac, also same thing, red wine, if it goes bad, it's going to really go bad. So you need, like when you leave a bottle open, but when there's only a little bit left at the bottom, because remember, you have that layer inside. So I just wanted to share my little secret. If you are using this type of wine barrels, you got to be extremely technical, extremely careful. And so, and we are very, very careful. Otherwise, what you have to do is send your rum. One day I wanted to use a beer barrel from a Brooklyn brewery. It was a King Stout, it was in Brooklyn. And I said, I cannot ship the barrel because when the barrel will happen in Cognac, it will be a disaster. So I shipped some of the rum there. We used some of the rum there and shipped it with it. And actually, to prevent, as alcohol is keeping it away from going bad, right? Because alcohol, the rum we put in this is high proof. So I just wanted to share this little secret about using a specific specific ways. So I don't know if you guys have any question about this rum. I hope you like it. It's one of my babies. I thought that's Trinidad in its beauty. When it's not just Trinidad with a real flavors that I think are beautiful. So if we don't have questions, and again, you can interrupt me, by the way. Now we're going to go to a different place. We're going to go to Jamaica. So Jamaica, again, and we're going to show you a few pictures. As you probably know, or maybe you don't, but I'm telling you, in Jamaica, I'm involved with Money Musk, which is, with it's actually called Clarendon, the distillery, where we are, because when we purchased a distillery called, West Indies Rum Distillery, in Barbados, it was the owner of 1/3 of National Rum of Jamaica. It was a beautiful dream for me coming true. National Rum of Jamaica owns 1/3 of, so we own 1/3 of National Rum of Jamaica through West Indies Rum Distillery. So we have a very beautiful distillery there. And this one is from Clarendon. And National Rum Jamaica, we own a distillery in the south of Jamaica, Clarendon, which is next to the Money Musk Sugar Mill, Clarendon, and then Long Pond. Right now, you're looking at a Long Pond actually still, but I wanted to show you here. I like this picture. I don't know if you guys see it. Do you see it, Dirk? You see the picture there? And then
Yes,
so you see this beautiful, to me, they almost look like dinosaurs, and this one was built by a beautiful coppersmith called, there's a John Doerr Distilling, David Pym. And when you see this funneling, what you're trying to do is to extract as much flavor as possible. So there's two styles in Jamaican rum. There's either what we call the Southern style, which doesn't use muckpit. And if you have questions, we can cover this. Or there's a Northern style, which is embodied by Hamden and by Long Pond. And again, we're very fortunate to have a Long Pond part of the, the distillery. So I get to work with the people there. The year now, Jules is throwing a picture of the pot still that made the rum that you're tasting right now, which is a retort still of Clarendon. So this is a beautiful rum. Be careful. And so maybe that you want to tell us which bottle it is.
Ja, correct. So das ist, also Nummer 5 ist die Flasche, die wir jetzt als zweite Probe bitte haben. Flasche Nummer 5.
Wonderful. So let me grab a glass as well. And we're going to try. So
there's one question, Alexander. The question is it the cask strength?
Alors, this one is slightly adjusted. It was a little more, was 55, and I thought it was a little tight. Because as a master blender, when you distill, you proof down before aging, depending on what you want to extract from the barrel, right? Because when you distill in the pot still that you saw, usually you're 78 to 80%. And you proof down, and then with time, obviously, it's coming down. So it's very, very close to cask strength in this one because it was proofed as a little, as a low. Thank you for showing the bottle as a low proof. And I thought, to your question, I'm trying to show you what is the rum at its best proof because each rum is demanding a different proof. So this one, Clarendon Distillery, 51% alcohol. Fermentation 1 week, pot still. I showed you the pot still was distilled in 2007, 11 years in a bourbon barrel in Jamaica, 3 years in a Ferron barrel with us. So French barrel, remember you have the two type. And the finish is done with actually an American whiskey called Iron Roots from Texas that I really love. They use something called butcher corn. It's a corn that's red. And I chose these barrels and I got lucky. The whiskey made it America best tasting whiskey in 2 competition. And so it's a beautiful whiskey. It's a rum that's about 322 volatile substances. So for Jamaica, that's already big. Esther's 100, but it's a medium body Jamaican rum. This one is a fermentation of 1 week. A lot of rum is just 72 hours, but we're not like a Long Pond rum that would be like a big punch in the face. It's this very elegant Southern style. So we can taste it together.
Alexander,
Here,
I have a question. Where is this whiskey from? Iron Woods is from.
Iron Roots is from Texas, a little village called Denison in Texas. I work with the people. Where we have worked together, and it's a little village and it's a little distillery. And the first time I tasted their whiskey was at the whiskey show, and I loved it so much. I can imagine flavors, so I could imagine this beautiful thing that I could do with that, and I was like, I can do this. And I used it, and it's very interesting. They love plantation so much that they're actually made a whiskey using our own barrels of plantation. So it's what we call a barrel swap, because in my life, you see, I've worked with, I'm an older guy now. I was 22, but now I'm 56, so I have a lot of experience. And I've worked with a lot of master blenders and master distillers. And what I did here was to be able to work together with this guys who made this beautiful whiskey. And when we do a barrel swap, obviously with Southern, we don't do a barrel swap because the Southern guys are not using a rum barrel. But when we are doing, another spirit like Teeling or like this one called Iron Roots, they love to use our barrels and we love to use their barrels, and we do a barrel swap. So this one is what we call a barrel swap. So we work with each other's to do different takes. So
now you're talking about barrels. You said that this one has majorly been aged in bourbon barrels in Jamaica. Would it make sense at some point, or maybe it's already a plan, to use some cognac barrels to age rum in Jamaica?
That's a great question, by the way, because the thing is, there's something happening, that we got to be very careful. You could technically, the answer, it's technically possible because, as you know, cognac, it's stable, it's a spirit. So that's a great question. As opposed to wine, the barrel wouldn't corrupt. So it makes a lot of sense. The only problem we got is we really have something we got to be careful. The earth is burning right now. So we are trying to do things as close to where the barrels are, So you're probably arguing, well, what about the bourbon barrels? They have to come from America, right? To the Caribbeans. And we are studying a possibility to go back to the roots of rum when the barrels were shipped, collapsed in pieces and reassembled in Barbados. In Barbados, we have a little cooper. We have a cooper unit, and we have a guy who makes, fix the barrels. And it was built in 1933, so it's not in great shape, but it's still working. It's a low tech, wonderful equipment. And so we're trying not to have to ship the cognac barrels to Jamaica as we send the rum from Jamaica to France. But technically it could be possible because it's a spirit, so the barrel wouldn't be corrupted, when it arrives there. It's just that we're trying to do it in a way, in the old days, shipping was costly to the environment, but was also costly to people's wallet and to people's life. Mm-hmm. When you shipped a barrel in the sailing ship, you were not sure the sailing ship would arrive if there was a storm. So people didn't ship empty bottles to the Caribbeans to ship back. They would bottle close to the consumer because the cost to the environment was as high to the cost to humans. Now, when oil became very, very, very cheap, now it's not the case as much. So people are thinking again. Then people said, well, forget about it. Everything shipped, everything from everywhere. But now we're being very, very careful about this.
I was more wondering about the evolution in cognac barrels under tropical aging compared to continental aging.
I know it's a great question that I can also answer because, what's beautiful about both is the tropical aging, has an influence where you have a high heat and high humidity. So you have a strong evaporation. So when the rum is young, it's incredible. It works beautifully. In what you have in continental aging, you have differences of temperature. So if you have differences of temperature, when it's hot, it pushes the rum in the wood. When it's cold, it retracts. When it's hot, it pushes back. That's something that one genius about aging was Jean Monnet, the father of the guy and the grandfather, the two gentlemen that, of the guy who created Europe, was one of the guys creating Europe, Jean Monnet. and he was a cognac maker, and he saw that the differences of temperature, increased the interaction with the wood. So actually, as a secondary aging, it's wonderful to be able to have a continental aging. We know this because, of course, we tried it. We shipped some barrels, and we even shipped barrels of cognac, by the way, with cognac inside, which is legal. It's legal to age cognac in the Caribbean, and it's very interesting because long time ago people would ship the cognac in a barrel. So, and then of course we drink it, in Barbados, and when we finished drinking it, we decided, we did it like in the old days, use the cognac barrel. So of course you would have a different take, not as much interaction with the wood, but of course a different of evaporation because the wood acts as a filter.
We would have to do the first 2 years in cognac, right? And then we could ship them.
Exactly. Cognac can be aged anywhere around the world under two conditions. That first, when it leaves cognac, it's at least 2 years, because it's not a cognac before 2 years. So it has to be a full-blown cognac. And then the warehouse has to be registered by the government, and it has to report every year what it has, the evaporation, and it has to be in a country that has an approved custom system by French standard, which I think is right, is the right way to do. And then one day, if you want, I can have you try a cognac aged in Barbados by the sea. And it's really interesting, it's very interesting. And, we got a few barrels there because we're trying to study and learn what people used to do in the old days, again, even with cognac, right? So that's why, that's as you probably, people who know me, how much I love this type of research, because in the end, our job is to be the artisans of beautiful taste, right? Is how can we create beautiful taste? But we have to be careful with two things now, is the environment, because we are agricultural product. And if we don't respect the planet, then we have years like this year. This year, we had incredible hail in cognac that destroyed 1/3 of our vineyard. And then we got one of the worst drought, and so we got to be careful about it. And the second point is energy. Obviously, it's a big issue. And as we speak, we are developing, and it's going to be a 3-year project, methanization plant in Barbados. So we use some of the waste stream of Barbados to create the energy we need to distill. So we don't need to import gas, or we don't need to import oil. And we didn't wait about the crisis to do that. We've been working on it for 3 years, to find a solution about this, because I feel bad having to import all this energy from abroad, where we can make energy from the local, agricultural byproducts. And most distilleries distill with fossil energy, and we're trying to change this for our distillery ourselves. For us, that's really, really important. And we could even produce electricity for the country of Barbados. So that's why I'm telling you this, is because remember when I said about my grandfather, we are agricultural products. And if we don't have quality products to distill, we cannot make a good rum. And if we burn the planet, we cannot make a good rum, because it's all over the place. We have storm, we have hail, we have everything that destroy our crops. And, and that's really important, so that's why we're being careful with that. So I'd like to know what you think of this rum. We are typically in Barbados, right? The esters in Jamaica, I'm sorry. We're typically in Jamaica with the esters, the high fruit notes, the nice, elegant rusticity on the palate. What we call the esters are promoted during fermentation. A master distiller has to know fermentation very well. And I have to do a little confidence to you. I'm making much better cognac now, since I've learned everything about Jamaican rum fermentation, Barbados rum fermentation, because the knowledge about fermentation in the Caribbean is second to none. It's a lot of secrets about it, the way it's being done, but it's just incredible. Probably because they had to learn it on their own, right? There, but also they had genius people like H.H. Cousin in Jamaica, or George States in Barbados, that were the guys that looked at all the traditions there and then put it together to try to see what is the signature about the taste. Because remember, you create flavor during the fermentation of the beautiful raw material. You select your flavor when you distill, and then you refine your flavors and your taste when you age, and concentrate some of the flavors when you age. So that's what you do. And so when you're smelling this rum, if you want to smell with me again, I don't know if you agree, but we got nice rich notes of a little bit of banana. We got a little pineapple. We got of course the wood is there, yeah, right? That's on the background. That's from the wood. A little bit of vanilla, that's there. Spice notes, cinnamon, from the French barrel. But the fruits are right there in the background. And on the palate, you get a little bit of citrus notes also that are going back on your palate. And really, I don't know if you agree, but I spent a lot of time in Barbados and Jamaica. I spent a week every month in the Caribbeans, making rum. And when I taste this, even though I'm in London and it's raining outside, I feel like I'm in Jamaica.
And Alexander, you spoke about muck pit. So in this one, there is no muck pit because muck pit is in Hamden or Long Pond.
Yes, you're right. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, but thanks to the German, the Jamaicans were promoted into making what is called the continental flavored rums. Yeah. The story goes, and you guys are German, so you know maybe better than me, but in Germany, you have a love for rum for a long time. And what I've been told by the guys in Jamaica, I don't know if it's true, but that's the Jamaican people saying that what happened in Germany in the 19th century, there was so much Jamaican rum imported that the government of Jamaica, of Germany, imposed very high taxes on Jamaican rum. And the importers, so we're going to show you right now open vat fermentation right now, right at the screen. But the government of Germany put so much taxes that some German importers thought, this is crazy. We need to find a solution. And they went to talk to the Jamaican distilleries to say, can you make a very, very concentrated, rum that we can use? And the importers would use a neutral spirit, a beet spirit, and blend a very, very strong Jamaican rum to create. And then I think it's called Rumversnitz right now. So people could find the flavors of Jamaica. Of course, it's not really a rum, but that was a way to go around the tax and still have the beautiful nose and aromatics of this. And Barbados did the same, by the way, and the distilleries from northern Jamaica. The southern Jamaican distillery were not as interested. They were quite successful. You probably see on this picture the open vat fermentation. That's to promote, again, the creation of these esters. The esters are created usually by the acidity and the alcohol on the effect of a specific bacteria, and that's the finding at the time. And so the German people got to work with the people of Jamaica to create these super concentrated elements. So how do you do this? You do your first distillation, the fermentation, first fermentation, and when fermentation is finished, you create mucking. What is mucking? You have a pit where people in Jamaica have a secret formula to grow bacteria and a little bit of yeast. And once the fermentation is finished, you take this and you put it into the fermenting tank. That's called mucking. The muck pit is where the muck is grown, and then you muck. And then when you muck, what happens is these bacteria that have been really, really grown for many years are going to be, creating these esters. So now only 3 distilleries that I know are doing this regularly on a regular base. And muck pits, by the way, can never be stopped. You have to continue, keep it alive. Even when Long Pond was down because of the fire, we were feeding the muck pit. You never want to kill this. There's a legend at Long Pond that says that the muck pit has been going on since 1753. I don't know if it's true because I was not there in 1753, but I can tell you that it as far as I've been visiting it, it's been going on. So that's the mucking, and that's the northern style. And so the Germans have promoted this because they were buying a lot of it, so much that they perfected the technology to an art that they could go as high as 5,000 esters. Imagine 5,000. You cannot drink it, right? But the government of Jamaica made it illegal to this day, by the way, to export higher than 1,600 because that concentration allowed to go a long way. So to the point that the Jamaicans were not exporting enough rum anymore. So that's the story between Germany and Jamaica and a little bit of Barbados. Because Barbados, we can go as high as 5,000, but it is legal for us to export it at 5,000. But obviously, when you do this super concentrated, it's to use, I'm a master blender, it's to use as a blending element. So that's the story of the muck pit. Don't confuse with the dunder pit, because the dunder, it's a synonym for vinasse, what's left. It's the Jamaican word for vinasse, what's left after fermentation. And so that's very acidic, right? And that's what you use to create more acidity when you want to acidify your wash, the stuff that, you're going to be distilling to create some of these esters. So I don't know if I answered your question. I'm sorry if it's a little technical, but, I do that every day. So I realize sometimes it's confusing, but this is really incredible technology developed in the 19th century, in Jamaica with the help of Germany. Absolutely. I'd like to tell you it's the help of France, but that was Germany that really helped.
Alexander, I wanted to add that when you are at the distillery, for example, I was in Long Pond a few years ago, you are not allowed to see the muck pit.
Yeah.
Forbidden for all the visitors.
You're right. Yeah. You have to be a distiller or, like me or the guys involved with the distillery. Jamaica, it used to be forbidden to see it in Barbados. And I had a big conversation with the team in Barbados and a conversation with the team in Jamaica. And I said to them, it's not because, we purchased a distillery that we're going to listen to what I have to say. You have to feel okay about this, but we want to share the knowledge with people. I think knowledge is pleasure. The more you know, the better it is as a producer. So they taught me and they showed to me, but I'm so excited to tell you what I can tell you. And I would like to tell you more. But Barbados has agreed, the team has agreed to share with you. So now when you come to Barbados, you can see, and Barbados is not called a muck pit, it's called a nursery. You can see the place where we grow these elements, and it looks like a fermentation pit, but it's really, when you have all these ingredients that are growing. And there's quite a few secrets the way it's done, but we can show you. And I like to share with you. That's wonderful. You can see cane stalk. So people sometimes think, oh, you are using sugar cane. No, just not molasses. No, actually, you use the cane stalk in it to get some elements of yeast from the cane and bacteria. And they know that if they harvest this from this field, they can promote certain way. And they know this for more than 100 years. And I find that fascinating. That's the story of Barbados and Jamaica. Grenada used to do it. I don't know anybody in Grenada doing it anymore, but Grenada used to do this as well, by the way, but not to my knowledge for the past 40 years.
So today you just have two in Jamaica, Hamden, Long Pond, and West Indies doing it, and that's it.
That I know of. Some people say that a new Armouth is doing it also in Jamaica. I am not sure. I don't know. Okay. I've never seen it, so I cannot talk about what I don't know. I can talk to you about what I know. All the other distilleries I visited, I never saw any work like that being done. I think people will regenerate it. I think now that people like full-bodied rum again, I think it's going to be again done. But many secrets, man. I mean, many. There's a way to acidify also your first retort, your second retort. All of this is not public knowledge, but it will become one day. I hope so, because I think we should share. It makes the rum, so much more exciting. So, but here you see, you do have that typical Jamaican taste already because it's a long fermentation. You saw the wooden vat picture in a wooden vat. So the wooden vat, when you use, it's very hard to use wooden vats with juice, cane juice rum, because cane juice you can only distill, when there's cane juice available. But when molasses rum, you can distill all year long. So your vat is kept alive, and in the wood of the vat, you have the signature of the yeast and the signature of the bacteria that are going to be the signature of the distillery, right? So you need about a year, to develop this signature. And if you continue fermenting, these are kept alive. Now, if you do a cane juice rum, you can only distill cane juice when it's in season. So 4, 5, 6 months out of the year, 7 months, but not year long. So your vat will gonna be decaying unless you really clean it. So most of these elements will be killed and you'll have to restart it. So that's why, you can really do these techniques and having these wooden vats, especially with molasses rum. All right, just I hope I make sense. I do that every day, and I just wanted to explain this. And you see this rum, how it is different. That's how I think is beautiful about rum. As you know, the philosophy of my team in Barbados and Jamaica is rum is such a spirit with so much culture technically and some freedom, obviously, about making it. And the cost, we need to protect this freedom at all costs so we can make these super beautiful rums. And that's very, very important if we want to create these beautiful flavors. Now, freedom as a cost, it's honestly and transparency. And that's why nowadays with the computers, the amount of rum you distill, what you are doing is really controlled and obviously so you can safeguard all these techniques. That's really, really important. All right. So now we're going to jump into the next one, which is Australian rum. But I'm really excited that we're tasting it side by side. You can see on the picture, Beansley Distillery. It's a beautiful distillery in Australia. And, it is actually a very special one. This is a distillery if you see it. And this one is very special because it's using specific yeast called Schizosaccharomyces bombay yeast. So I don't want to bother you with technical stuff, but what is very special about this is that when the Australians were learning about making rum 150 or 120 years ago, they went to the Caribbeans. And you know what they did? So it's the number 6, and Dirk, right?
That's the number 6, yes.
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Perfect.
Numero 6. I'm trying to learn. So this one distilled in 2009. And what's beautiful is, imagine if you're Australian distiller and you want to learn about making rum. So you go to Jamaica, you go to Barbados. Barbados is the country that has the most, history. 1651, they were already making rum in Barbados, and you learn. But if you're a smart distiller, you know what you do? You bring back some of the local yeast, because the yeast is like the guys making bread, right? The yeast defines a lot of the taste, because there are these elements that turn the alcohol, the sugar, into flavors and alcohol. So, and they brought back this yeast strain from Jamaica, and they start growing it, because once you have a tropical climate, you can continue growing the yeast. And they did so until 2000, I am being told 2010, 13 or whatever, the beginning of the 2010s. And so what you're tasting today is one of the last expression of this, because they gave it up because the yield is much lower. You don't get a very good economical efficiency, but I think you get this beautiful taste, that yeast that promotes, again, these esters and beautiful flavors, typical to the specific rums that in Jamaica, but here in a different way, because this is Australia. So here the proof is 45% alcohol. It's 12 days for the Schizosaccharomyces fermentation, and it's aged 11 years in Australia, 1 year in a Ferrand cask, and here we use it's 4 months in a Palo Cortado sherry cask. So as you know, they're quite rare at this type of sherry cask. This is medium body rum with 277 grams. What I love about it, I find it citrus, elegant pear notes, and spicy elements that I find beautiful. And that's one of a kind. Again, we're in a typical different area with the different flavors that I find beautiful. And so they're not using mug pit there, you know, they're doing it as a long fermentation. 12-day fermentation is long, you know, typically you have rums, it's only 2 days, no, 1 day and a half. Here's 12 days. That's how you promote these beautiful flavors that are very typical here, and that what we thought would be beautiful in the bottle.
And Alexander, the molasses is coming from Australia because they produce a lot of sugar there, right?
Absolutely. Australia is one of the big sugar producing countries, so they have all the molasses they want. Okay. It's a local molasses. They use different cane varieties, you know, the cane varieties of the English Caribbeans and the French Caribbeans come from Barbados. You know, the blue cane is a Barbados strain or cane that was created at the sugarcane breeding station in Barbados. The sugarcane, to tell you a little bit of history about rum, you know, rum, as you know, is using sugarcane, and the sugarcane comes from Southeast Asia and was brought by civilization. Alexander the Great at one point also picked it up and brought it forward, and Christopher Columbus took it from Madeira and took it to the Caribbeans. And then it grew very well in the Caribbeans, but it grew so well, you don't even need to use the seeds. You just take the cane, cut it, put it in the ground, it develops roots, and here it goes. And so for hundreds of years, the cane was what's called the noble cane. And it was always perpetrated that way. They didn't bother using the seeds. And it's a guy, but then imagine if it's the same varieties of cane all over, if there's a disease that attacks it, it kills all the cane. And that's what happened, much like phylloxera in Europe, that killed a lot of the cane fields and a lot. So the sugar industry was almost dying, you know, because of this. And there was a guy who was a freed slave, you know, called Mr. Hopper in the mid 1800s that has shown that you can make very strong cane by using the seeds of a female, may put it together and create very strong cane. But nobody really listened to him because there was no need for it. And his work was forgotten, except by a guy called Bovel. Well, next time you go to Barbados, make sure you keep as a souvenir a $2 bill. You have the face of Bovel, and he created the sugarcane breeding station in 1880 to study all the canes and trying to save, you know, sugar and rum. So the blue cane was actually created. The blue cane is a marketing name. The real name is B for Barbados with the number. I forgot what it is. I think it's 31312, but I'm not sure. And then the gray cane, same thing. They all come from they were grown in Barbados. Now, in Australia, they also have you know, a cane breeding station, same as in the Réunion Island. They have the, you know, the right cane, different kind that grow there. So, but Barbados was the one that did that. I remember because, and I must tell you, and we're going to be speaking about Barbados. My first trip as a professional to Barbados is many years ago. You know, 25, 30 years ago, and I went to visit the sugarcane breeding station. And I was a small, little young guy, you know, and at the time I could only listen and see, and I wanted to learn. And I remember all my life, you know, I saw these scientific guys dressed with, they have a white scientific blouse, and they were in their lab, and they were on a beautiful little farm in the Redlands. But their shoes, they wear flip-flops, you know, they wear barefoot and flip-flops. And, you know, that's what I felt, man, I am really in the Caribbeans. And they were just enjoying their work, a beautiful work doing this. And in the back of my head, I always thought, you know, one day I would love to be partnered with these guys. And they said to me, I will remember all my life, he said, you're the first spirit guy coming to see us. We work for the sugar guys. And I said, well, one day I'd love to work with you, but I didn't know in what regards. And when we purchased West Indies Rum Distillery, and I see that more as a marriage, by the way, than in a purchase. So when we first got married with West Indies Rum Distillery a few years back right now, and, you know, I told the story to Andrew, who runs the distillery. And about 3 years ago, Andrew says, we're really talking with the sugarcane breeding station, and they're willing to go into a partnership with us, so we can study the different cane varieties with them. And if we purchase a cane mill, that, you know, the cane mill is to grind the cane, to make juice with the cane. So we bought a nice cane mill, and we called it the Harper in honor of the free slave that everybody forgot. And if you go to Barbados, you're gonna meet Andrew. Andrew runs the distillery at West Indies Rum Distillery, is doing a PhD in the history of rum making. And the Harper Mill is a cane mill that's now at the sugarcane breeding station. And guess what we're doing? We are crushing cane, and when it's in season, and we are making juice rum, and also juice rum blended with molasses as well, together to make this beautiful expression. So that's the history in the making, and that's and so the cane that they're using, instead of just putting it back in the middle of some other sugar mill, we keep it for making rum. So I just wanted to tell you the history of rum has not stopped; it continues, and that's what we're doing with that. And I wanted to tell you the story of what happened. I don't know if you can see it right now on the screen, but this is the cane. I'm going to put here on the screen. This is the cane mill. You see the rollers, in the background, and that is making the cane juice. So we're researching it, and all these canes come from there, which is different than the cane from Australia. All right. So if you guys okay, unless you have a question, we're going to jump into Barbados now, and we're going to go to West Indies Rum Distillery. I'm going to put a little picture so you can see. West Indies Rum Distillery is a distillery that was always my dream. When I created Plantation in 1999, it was just a few barrels, and then we developed. And my dream was really to get into a partnership with a distillery. And this one was one of my dream distilleries. 80 people work there. It was established by a German guy called George States. That was a genius. He was both a distiller and a coppersmith. If you look on internet, there's quite a few patents by this man. And he was to Barbados what H.H. Cousin was to Jamaica. They actually knew each other's. And he researched, and he believed excellency for rum came from knowledge. And so he really designed a distillery that became the backbone to this day. It's the backbone of Barbados rum. It makes 84%. We make 84 to 85% of Barbados rum. We still have equipment that he designed that we're fixing right now. Some of the equipment that was used 100 years ago, as you can see on the screen right now, is where I'm going to put it on, is used. It's in the parking lot, but you can see this one is called the Charles Batson still. But I can show you other stills, that we are using right now that are 19th century. So when you drink Barbados plantation rum, we use a still I'm going to put on the screen right now that we call the Old Greg. That is a still that was built in 1850. You can see from the rivets, there were early machine-made rivets, and it's still making rum for plantation. Obviously, when you buy, the Grand Reserve, the XO, and so on, all the pot still rum comes from this still. And then this still is so old, we are worried that, we don't want it to thin out too much. So we recreated from the archives a still, because we have archives at the distillery dating back from 1893. And this still that you're looking at is a still that I drew and that we made from the archives, from the other archives. We call it the hot pot, and it's helping the Old Greg, in the first distillation, so we can keep the Old Greg for many years. So I'm very excited to share this with you, to show you this still that we recycled, actually, copper from old cognac stills that was reshaped all by hand by a team of coppersmith in Cognac, following a drawing from very, very old still and the advice of a coppersmith called David Pym from Jandor. So now it's a little transition. We're going to jump in to Barbados and taste 3 beautiful rums. We're going to start with the youngest. We're going to try the 2007, because I want us to finish with the grand finale, which is the 1986, which is a museum piece again. And so the 2007, we're going to be tasting.
Das ist die Flasche Nummer 2.
Sorry?
The bottle number 2, Flasche Nummer 2.
Number 2, yeah, it's fine. I know that exactly. And so 2007, the extreme number 5. Remember, every year or every 18 months, every 2 years, we do an extreme edition. Be careful. This one, Dirk, is, as you know, is for the extreme. It is barrel proof.
Yeah.
So, I brought in my, I didn't dare to open the barrel, the bottle. So I have a little barrel sample that I brought with me in my luggage, and I'm going to open, but I have the bottles. And so I'm going to be tasting it with you. This one was distilled in the Old Greg. The Old Greg is distilled that was made in 1850. I just showed you the picture. And then it's distilled in a Collins still called it's a still that was a John Doerr still that we call the Franklin still. So it's a smaller still that we have. And John Doerr is a very storied coppersmith. So we're going to be trying this. And you're going to tell me what you think. Be careful, 58% barrel proof. This is something that's medium body, lighter than what we had before because of the fact that we do have the Collins still that's right there. Very elegant, spicy butterscotch, nutmeg, vanilla. So all the spice that you recognize in a Barbados rum. I do have, I don't know if you agree, but a little cinnamon, in the nose, and a little coffee and slight notes of creme brulee, it's a rum that needs to open up. And that's why I thought was delicious, to bottle it at that barrel proof. So I see a question, but it's in German. So I apologize, even though I know how to count in German.
It's only the question, which number of the bottle. Es ist jetzt die Flasche Nummer 2, lieber Johannes.
Yeah. So the bottle number 2. Thank you very much. And so you got this big, nice flavors that grabs you, and yet it's Barbados. It's about balance. It's about elegance. The wood is not taking over, which I really like. I do like that little creme brulee, nose. And that's from the West Indies Rum Distillery that you saw. And, that's where I work about a week every month. And I got to tell you, without this, it's the dream of a very specific man that was a very, very talented. I'm going to show you a very strange, so you can see, some of the barrels here, Stades, in the honor of Stades. By the way, Stades did such a good rum that the local plantocracy, the local guys at the time, they made a law that he had to sell to them and not directly to the market. So financially it was very difficult for him. And also he was probably a better technician than he was a businessman. We know from his writings, and he was not very patient also with the local administration sometimes. And he ran into financial troubles. And so the local guys, the rich guys locally, bought part of the distillery, and it became a publicly traded company. And so at that time, the good news about this was we were able to have all the records. So there's a room called the Vault in Barbados where we keep archives from since 1893. And so we know a lot of things about, the rum making of Barbados, thanks to this vault where everything has been kept, right? So that's when we need to design a new still, a new pot still. Then we actually, use the drawings from the vault. And that's what happened there. So we have secrets from the vault I want to share with you. We have secrets that I was not able to tell you, and then now the team agrees. Some specific West Indies rum distillery rum, we use a little bit of seawater in the fermentation, 2%, 1%. So of course the salt doesn't distill through, but it creates a special environment for the yeast to develop. That's a signature style. Now, that was also Jamaican tradition. And, Stades was talking, with Cousin, and they had shared some of that knowledge together, I am sure, because you find both sides, islands using similar ways, So just wanted you guys to try this, you know, very specific edition, you know, 2007, really full-bodied, very interesting rum. And I want you guys to compare it because we're going to be tasting different ones, you know, from the, we're going to, you know, unless you have questions on this one, we're going to jump in to the 2000 straight, you know, rum. So think about it. The 2000 is 22-year-old rum. So the 2000 is 14 years, you know, in Barbados, you know, there. And then tropical aging, I'm sorry, it was 5 years, and it was shipped to Cognac 14 years ago, 16 years ago, I'm sorry. So start again. 5 years in Barbados, 14 years in Cognac, 16 years in Cognac, and then we have this rum. So the ABV, the alcohol percentage, is 47.8%. You can see.
And we have a bottle number 1 now.
Yeah.
So, also Flasche Nummer 1.
Eins, yes.
The time it was in Cognac, was it in Cognac barrel or still in bourbon barrel?
Alors, we have we use 14 years in the bourbon barrels and 2 years in the Cognac barrel. Great question. Great question. So, you know, this one is a beautiful rum that is made in tree still. The Greg still that was designed in 1850. We showed you the picture, but also the Cullen still, same as the 2007. But here you have a heavier rum. And why is that? Because we're using the Vulcan still. And the Vulcan still is an incredible still called the chamber still. You can see a picture right now that we're going to share with you. It was designed, it was designed in America by the rye whiskey producer. And I'm going to share it right now on the screen. And you know, it's 3 chambers on top of one another. So it looks like a tube, but it feeds into one another. It's not a column, there's no plate. And the Vulcan still has made rum. You know, this is still that's from the 19th century that were purchased in the distillery, you know, the 1930s, late after that, you know, because during a prohibition. And I remember in prohibition in America, people couldn't, if you like rye whiskey, it was a rye, and they couldn't use, you know, their still anymore. And that's when the Caribbeans went there with their checkbook and bought it. You can see in that picture, you can see in this picture I'm going to show you. You see here, you see I'm with the different guys at the distillery. You see Dario, the taller guy next to me. He's the specialist for yeast. He's a university professor about yeast, and he joined the distillery. He was supposed to go back to the university, but he decided it's better to make rum than to teach children or young men and young ladies. And then you see next to Dario to the right, you see Don Ben, master distiller, voted world best rum master distiller last year. And the guy all the way to the right is a legend in the distillery. Digger Anderson has been distilling rum at West Indies Rum Distillery for 43 years. 43 years he's been walking to the distillery to make rum. And his father has been distilling at the distillery for 47 years. So when you talk to Digger and when you come to Barbados, he has a strong Barbadian accent. So not always easy, but to understand. But Digger, when you talk to him, you talk to 90 years of rum making. 90 years of rum making in one person. And I find this very humbling. And, you know, in this picture, it looks like I'm telling them what to do. It's not true. I was learning how to use the still, and I'm repeating what I know before I'm going to distill with it. And because these guys had, you know, taught me how to use the still. This still was sleeping at the distillery until we purchased the distillery, and we fixed it, and we're making rum with it again. So this one, 2000, was still using the still, and Digger Anderson, you know, remembers, you know, using it, and we're able to fix it, and we're making rum with it again. So that's a very, very special rum, you know, because it uses the one at the time, you know. So I'm gonna drink it with you right now. So you see, this typical chamber still, it's got this very specific kind of almost animally, very deep chocolate notes. You got a little bit of hazelnuts. And of course, you have a little bit of very ripe banana, but really in the background, not like Jamaica, very much more subdued. It's quite a full-bodied rum into what we call the higher alcohols. So the higher alcohols are very rustic notes of almost raw chocolate. Think about like a Versailles Still Demerara kind of thing, and that has also these beautiful notes. This is bottled at barrel proof, 47.8% alcohol, and as you can see, this 250 grams of volatile substances. So in the Barbados style already you have quite a lot of flavors.
At what proof did they used to be put in the barrels?
These were put in the barrel at a lower proof to extract a lot of sweetness from the barrel. Okay. So I don't know exactly. It doesn't show in the record, but I wouldn't be surprised it was 60%.
Are you doing it still the same today?
Yes, we do barrel different proof. It's a great question. Depending what you want to extract from the barrel, right? If you proof at too high, you're going to get more of the tannins, and if you proof at the lower level, you're going to extract more of the sweeter notes, because some elements of the woods are more soluble to water, and some element of the wood are more soluble to alcohol. So depending what you want to draw from the barrel, as a master blender, you're going to decide at what proof you put in the barrel. Now, sometimes in the old days, some distilleries didn't have much space, so they barreled all the time at a higher proof. But this is not advisable. What's advisable is really to decide the type of taste you want to decide, and you're going to decide on the proof. It's very rare. I don't like to barrel at 80% alcohol, which in a retort still in Jamaica, you can be 80% when you're out. And then if you do, then you get the rum is going to be a lot of extractions of elements that are not always delicate. It depends. So we recommend a lower proof barreling. Now, most people barrel at 70 or 68%. For us, it really depends. It really, really, really depends. So what we want to do. So it's a great important point, obviously, to mention.
I guess it also depends when you know how many years you will let it in the barrel, right?
You're right. And what you can do, sometimes it barrel at a higher proof to extract certain element, then reduce down and put back, sometimes in the same barrel, but at a lower proof to extract other elements from the barrel. You see? So that's the secrets of master blenders, of what we call the barreling proof. Some people, usually big distilleries, they just do one proof and that's it, but because it's easier. But we like to adapt to what we want to do with this rum. All right. So now we're going to jump into another one, and maybe that's the beauty. But I don't know if you guys have questions, because I want to take a little bit of time before I go with the 1986. It's always a beautiful moment to share. Again, I want to thank Dirk. I mean, you didn't hesitate to open it. And I like that you do this, because I know you're a rum fanatic, and all of you, the three of you. And you agree with me that rums are made not just to collect, but to drink, and I like to drink it. And I always suggest we do, because we don't know where the world is going, and we might as well drink good rum. So I'm so glad we're able to open this bottle. So to me, today is a very special tasting. So we get to taste this rum. So, so I'm going to give you some of the description of this rum, the 1986. I can put a slide up. I don't know if you see it right now. You shared it. So I'm going to share with you a slide on this product.
There's also, sorry, there's also, Alexander, there's also a question in the chat, and it's in English, so you can read it.
All right, let me see let me look at it. I don't see it now, but I'm going to pull it. Can you see the conversation where they are, Jules? So I just want to see it. Voila. Let me just look at it. The discussion. Voila. Question. Alors, for the end, would you consider the 2000 or 2006 Rockley style? That's a great question. If not, what is the distinctive feature of the Rockley vis-a-vis two extremes, wash, spirit still? All these extremes are stunning. Thank you so much. So the Rockley is, I'm going to put the Rockley, on the screen for you. And because I think we have a picture in it. The Rockley is a still, we call the Rockley. We're not even sure it comes from the Rockley farm. There was a Rockley farm in South Barbados. We think so. And what we know about this still, I had it inspected. Look, it's on the parking lot as you look at this picture. And this Rockley is incredible. According to my friend David Pinn from Jandor. Jandor is an incredibly storied coppersmith that created pot stills for, Long Pond, for Romco of Fiji, for Barbados West Indies Rum Distillery, for many, many stills like Peru, Cartavio, a lot of better distilleries, Long Pond, yeah, I told you. And so a lot of, and when I showed him that still, you can see from the old rivets, it was actually, according to him, it's the oldest rum still in history. So we're like, all right, this is crazy. And I said, can we fix it? And he said, I think so, but you have to have it inspected. So I don't know if you know, some of you may know, I collect actually old stills. That's my collection. Some people collect, stamps, or some people collect beautiful bottles of rum, and I collect old stills because, to me, if you don't protect them, they're gone. And so because of that, I have a friends in Cognac. They are fixing old stills. And as we speak, the Rockley is being fixed, and we are going to make rum again. On my Christmas present, it will be the still when it's fully finished, and it will be fixed, and we'll be making rum again. So that's the story of the Rockley. We don't know exactly when it was decommissioned, but it was a very mystical rum for sure. And there was almost a style of it that developed that we continued making in the old Greg. Remember the old Greg I showed you? We think, and we're not sure, that style uses a little bit of seawater because some of the formulation had it. And it was a very heavy, very, very intense rum style that you can recognize. So we thought that was so interesting that we said, what if we fix the Rockley and make the Rockley still again? But we are yet to find, we have 3 or 4 fermenting bills that we think are going to be the one that was used back then that we're going to use in it. What we know from when we taste the Rockley, and some of you may have tasted it, you got this beautiful, very distinctive taste of Barbados that you find, I think, in this, I think, and I have to say that very carefully with you, that you find into the 1986. But the 1986 was distilled 100% in the old Greg. Remember, the still built in 1850. We know that as a fact. It's a big rum, 150 grams of esters. That's the picture you have right now on the screen. I'm going to share with you. That's the old Greg. It's a beautiful still as well. And to me, that's the Rockley style, what we're tasting right now in the 1986. That's as close as that we've done when I tasted it, anything like that. And again, a very, very special rum, very old. This is aged 13 years in a bourbon barrel in Barbados. This is aged 21 years in a bourbon barrels in France, and then 1 year in a single cask Ferrand 350 barrel, cognac barrel. And I don't know if you agree, but the risk for this type of rums can be sometimes too woody. But to me, I got nice mango notes. I got nice tropical fruit notes. I got, these beautiful, beautiful elements of peach for some reason, and that's a very, very special rum. And Dirk, I want to thank you for making this available, because to me, that's something magical, you know, to be able to taste it like this.
I think you can imagine how many people was asking for, can I have the bottle? I said, no, it's not for collecting, it's for
Yeah.
drinking. And that's the reason we cracked it and we drink it.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad we can do this today because, you know, you know, we have beautiful, you know, archives at the West Indies Rum Distillery. And if anybody of you wants to come and see us, we will show you these archives that allow us to still make beautiful rums. And that's why Andrew, I was able to convince him, because he's so knowledgeable and he's got so much material, to do a PhD on the history of rum making. So this is not lost, you know, forever. And that's what he's been doing. And, you know, because we're so lucky to have all these elements so we can taste, but also we can know, you know, the way it was produced and the way it was made. So I don't know if you guys like it. I hope you do. You know, you're tasting history of Barbados rum right there. And I think history of rum, you know, right there in your glass. And what happens with these very special rums is once they're in the glass, they will continue developing on and on. You know, they will not stop developing. And we know for sure that at the time there was some wooden vats, and we have reintroduced wooden vat fermentation at West Indies Rum Distillery. So we're going to be able to taste these rums for a long time.
Are they the one next to the beach, Alexander?
Yeah, although the one next to the beach now actually is a resting vats. The wooden vats are next to the still. You know, the next to the what we call pot still alley number 1, which is the original George States distillery cocoon when he started from scratch. And I don't know if you saw on the screen right now, I can show you, this is a picture from the late 19th century. You can see a wooden vat, and you can see all the way to the right a gentleman with a hat, and that's George States. You know, so at the time he was, you know, ambitious and created a wooden vat, you know, from the that's a picture now you can see of George States, and, you know, created this wooden vats for fermenting or for holding rum. The one that's on the beach is different, is that we recreate, because George States couldn't use his own name, everybody was using his name as a reference, as a stamp of approval. So all the rums we bought, people don't know, but actually West Indies Rum Distillery has made a rum of many other brands. All the brands you know from Barbados, except St. Nicholas Abbey, West Indies Rum Distillery has made them for decades. You know, whether it is Monge, whether it is, you know, of course, Cockspur, we've been making it for many, many years, you know, supplying them. Now 100% they would buy, you know, from Mont Gilboa Distillery and Monge, you know, but that's what it was. Same with all the rums brands. And what was that was the secret distillery holding and making rum for many people. And you know, and that's why it's very skillful distillery, because they could use any type of pot still, any type of profile, and it's very, very skillful people. But States couldn't be used his own name. His name was on other people's label, and so when we purchased the distillery, we asked the owner of the distillery. They owned a different company. You know, I can show you an old picture that has States, for example. You can see an old Dolly's or an old whatever is the brand. I'm going to show you, you know, where you see the brand of somebody else, but your Stays inside. And I asked these people, you know, the wonderful people who are selling, I say, can we please buy back the last label using States, for example, you know, and so we can create States rum again on its own. You can see on the label, it's called State Special. So you would think he owns this brand, but he doesn't. It's actually Geo Tudor to the left bottom. That actually is the guy who's using State's name, you know. And so, you know, now obviously States has his own label that we redesigned. You can see at the picture. Thank you for putting it on the screen. as we taste it. So we're reintroduced states, obviously just on its own. So it's a tribute to a genius of rum making, a very, very special, by the way, very, very special. You can see we have many labels in our archives. I can share another one with you right now. C'est bon, là, c'est on screen. That you can say stays refined white rum. But again, it's the Shamrock Trading. It's owned by Shamrock. And and they use his name. So we have dozens and dozens of labels that use stays every time, and another Shamrock Trading. So just to tell you the story of this wonderful distiller that created a lot of what we know when we call it Barbados rum. So there's a long love story between Germany as well as very special tasting, whether it is in Jamaica, with the heavy esters rum, but working of course with Jamaicans that are incredible knowledge, and also with Barbados. I don't know if you agree with me, but if you nose the rum again, it's developing fully. And I don't know if you see it, but right now you have these full fruit notes that are forward. That's when they're starting to climb out of the glass, because this is a very, very old rum, 1986. That really these beautiful, beautiful elements. I get papaya and many different things in that rum. So, a very good privilege to be able to taste it with all of you tonight, and very, very special.
Are there some more of such old barrels still at the distillery today?
Not so many. We have a few. Most of them now are in France at a plantation. Why? Because when you have very old barrels like this, 10% or 8% evaporation, you after 15 or 15 years, you start losing some of the very special elements of the rum. And of course, we will disagree with other master blenders. It's my point of view, but I remember rum is a work of art, and artists may disagree the way they conceive their products. But to me, once you reach a specific age, depending on how big the rum was when it was distilled, when you have 8% evaporation every year, some of what you're smelling today could be gone in the sky. So I think one of the reasons we're able to push it so long is because it was, aged first in Barbados, for 13 years, but then constantly aged for 22 years, and so that's why. So I have one more barrels, and for sure that I know that's beautiful, and I'm going to continue aging it. And I'd love to take this to 70 years old, because if we cherish it, it's got a potential to get there.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's another few years. I'll be much older when we do that tasting there.
Okay. No problem.
That's a date, right?
Yeah, that's the date.
Yeah. We have to look at the calendar on Outlook if they have these.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if you agree, but you got this style that's very Barbados with these very specific chocolatey notes and stuff. And I want to finish by, and of course, I'm going to be open to all the questions. I want to show you the team, that I work with, in Barbados. You see Digger to the right holding a bottle. You see, of course, Andrew to the left. That's on his heels. He's the guy writing the PhD. You see also on his heels, you see Don Ben, the master distiller. All the way to the left, you see John Kinch, master blender, retired after 41 years doing this. And you see a white guy in the back, a young kid. That's my son. I don't know if you see the head on it. We call him cheap labor. That's why, he's there sometimes. He's learning. He's been learning to distill for quite a long time. And right now he's back to trying to learn about sales as well. It's beautiful to know how to distill, but he needs to know. But I'm really proud of this team. They're wonderful, and it's such a privilege for me to be part of this distillery. And I will tell you one thing. My grandfather always told me, you never own a vineyard, you tend a vineyard. He said a lot of people think that they own a vineyard, but in the end, who owns the other? We end up in the earth, you know, and so we only own the vineyard if we're lucky for 90 years, you know, but in the end, the vineyard owns us forever. And it's the same for a distillery, you see. A distillery, you don't own a distillery, I think. You just tend a distillery. And that's what I'm doing right now with the team. All right, guys. So if you have any questions, it's always a pleasure and you know, to share. I love these moments. Again, sorry it's on screen, but really such a pleasure, you know, such a pleasure to share these type of rums. I see Christophe, who has a beautiful backdrop. Thank you, Christophe, you know, for the bottles in the back. Some
You're welcome. I thought it was fitting for the tasting today.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's your collection, but if it is, you got some beautiful.
Yeah, it's my garden. It's my collection.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Well, this is the bird collection, and it's all out of stock. All these bottles are gone. You know, I try to keep a few, but I have a lot of friends. When they come, I can't help it. I open the bottles, and so you got beautiful expressions, about 20 to 25 barrels of each for the world each time. Right now we're into another collection, which is the Under the Sea collection that's going to be finished soon as well. This was the bird collection, a beautiful collection. There's not a huge amount of old stock in the world, you know, like these. So you're smart to keep them, you know, but you're smart to drink them if you do as well. So thank you for showing that. That's very fitting. And you probably smell this rum, how it's developing. And I don't know if you agree. Now I got these beautiful sweet notes that are, you know, a little orange peel, passion fruit. Jules has been finding all these pictures. I'm sharing the glass because he's totally jealous. You know, sharing that, that beautiful rum. So that's a little story. If you guys want to throw questions at me, always a pleasure. Again, I'm really thought it was a great way to do that. I have a question. 86 surprisingly fruity for its age. True. But that comes from the esters. Few rums keep so much fruit. That's a great statement, by the way. And of course, what I'm going to say is arguable, but I do think that because it's aged, part of it is aged, you know, in a continental aging, you know, you keep some of these fruit elements longer intact without too much wood. Now, you know, this is something very important. We know from West Indies Rum Distillery that it had aging warehouse right by the sea, you know, where it is still now. We have these warehouses, but it had its own stock in Liverpool because they knew that double aging was such a beautiful tool for rum, you know, and they knew that when it's reached a certain age, or what, depending on what you want to do as a master blender, that would be great to have that possibility. And since a lot of the rum was being drunk in Europe, it was also a way to do it as a second step, and that's what we're celebrating. I forgot to tell you that all the rums from Barbados and Jamaica, the aged rum, when we ship to France, we ship them inside the same aging barrel. So the barrel, again, is not wasted. It comes back, it goes to France, and then it's being used by the whiskey producers and the beer producers. It's otherwise it would just die in Barbados. And then it goes to a third life. First life being America bourbon, second life being in Barbados, and a third life, which it should be that way, because why cut all these trees when you have these beautiful barrels? You know, is in Europe where it can be either whiskey barrels. Like I told you, I worked, you know, with Kilcoman, I worked with Teeling, I worked with Aaron, I worked with Roselier and many different distilleries, and also some beer makers, you know, where we swap barrels. So that's part of this. In the old days, people did this. And when you ship the rum inside the barrel, you have the rocking of the sea with the liquid inside, increase the interaction with the wood. That's called dynamic aging. So that's what we're doing with the plantation, you know, and offer these specific expressions.
Mr. Gabriel, do you hear me?
I cannot hear very well. I hear a faint voice. Let me put this.
I have one question.
I hear you well.
I love this the plantation 25 years old from Trinidad Tobago.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best. I have my English is not so good, but I have not. Have you a tip there in the near from the smell or from them? I think the 25 years Trinidad Tobago is the best one was you ever have.
Well, you know, it's what you say is very interesting and very important, you see, because when you like a rum, you know, especially when it's a vintage or a straight year like this, you have to do like Christophe, you have to buy a few bottles because, you know, what happens is that, especially the vintages, they're one-off. So yes, we do have this beautiful Trinidad. I love Trinidad, by the way, but I have to do a little secret for you. We buy, you know what they get from the lower plate, from the still, we buy this also, and because I like the Trinidad when it's got these intense flavors, you know, rather than the lighter style. So I'm totally with you. And that's when I fell in love with Trinidad, because when you look at the column, you're like, hey, you know, it's a big column. The way they're conducting this column is great. And actually Barbados has the same secrets when they get some elements from the lower trays on the column that they reblend before barreling. That's where you got these beautiful, beautiful tastes, you know. So no, and your English is very good, by the way. Probably better than mine.
No.
So thank you.
But I have some bottles from by me, but now I have many bottles from plantation rooms, but I think that one is the best rum from
well,
all. It's very that's the in Germany you say that's the hammer.
Well, thank you, and that's, you know, we're trying for plantation, for us is to celebrate these beautiful expressions. And you know, the beauty and what we're trying to offer, it's much more than like a product, is opening the world where we don't have to compromise. Because, for example, we have some Fiji, and Fiji, you love it or you hate it. I personally love it, but I can accept the idea some people might. But we don't have to make it more pleasing. We can sell the full Fiji taste, which is incredible and beautiful. Because if somebody is not so comfortable with this, we don't have to just water it down. We can just show you the true expression. It's like Jamaica. We do 100% pot still because this is true full-blown, full-bodied Jamaican flavor. That's the treasure of Jamaica. It's their culture. And if some people think it's a little too powerful, then they can sell, you know, do have, you know, different expressions. That's something we want to do. And it's the same with Trinidad, to show these nice, delicate, yet intense flower, exotic notes. So that's something very, very special, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank Tina and Marcus for what they say. Thank you so much. And some people are, so you were here last year, so thank you for being here, you know, this year. That's wonderful. And also Christophe, for what you said about the 86. We all agree with you. Dennis, I see, you know, also, I'm really excited you like these extremes, and, you know, for Rum Depot to be able to make it possible for us, you know, with Benoit and I mean, you guys are really, really nice. And I think, I don't know if I told you the story last year, but Dirk, you know, when I am in Barbados, where I'm in the Caribbean, I turn around and I see him. One day I'm in a little joint bar right by the beach in Grenada, and I went some of my friends, and I arrive in this bar and I see some of my friends from Grenada, and I turn around and who do I see? I see Dirk that was there in Grenada enjoying good rum, and we had a good talk. So you have somebody who not only drinks the rum, but he goes there and discovers a lot about it, and that was always a pleasure to see in the Caribbean.
Yeah, it was one of the best stories I had.
Yeah, that was funny, because, you know, when you expect to see some people, but I didn't expect you to see you there. That was really funny. Now we have a Michael asking a question that says, would you consider the 2006 Rockley style? Yeah, we answered that question. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I'm looking.
But there's another one, a really good question.
The very last one.
The very last one from Basti. So thank you, Basti, for this comment.
Ha 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 ha. Why not? You know, I mean, you have to see we can do from some of the single casks. If
Yes.
you want to do, we can look at something like that. What we do every year is this single cask expression. But I'm going to throw a challenge to all of you listening. I need inspiration, and if you know, you in Germany make beautiful products. I've tasted some eau de vies. There's such a heritage, and imagine these eau de vies were shipped to the Caribbeans, and sometimes people use these beautiful either liqueurs or special wines or that you make in Germany. So I want everybody to think. Maybe you tell me today, or maybe you come back to Dirk about an idea about which wine barrel I should, or which pearl barrel I should use from Germany. And don't tell me which rum, because that's going to be my, you know, the democracy is only halfway. It's not a full democracy. You know, after the democracy stops, I'm choosing which rum I'm going to be using into this. But if you can brainstorm, doesn't have to be done today. I love that you throw a challenge at me, throw a challenge about, you know, a beautiful product that, you know, from Germany that I could get barrels. It has to be aged. It has to be somebody that can sell or give me barrels. Maybe somebody they want rum barrels and I pay them with rum barrels or any done there. Of course, Gewürztraminer, I am ready. I know Gewürztraminer is going to be an easy one. Like IPA, absolutely difficult. I need to get Gewürztraminer and the barrels. I need somebody to ship the barrels. Maybe I send my guys on the truck to send back the barrels right away. So we can that, you know, we have beer finished in the rum barrels. Why not the other way around? Absolutely. I've used Duvel, which is a Belgium rum, and also an IPA, you know, from you know, Brooklyn Brewery as well. Black Riesling. You guys are pretty good. Riesling white cask of Stuttgart. Okay. So I think we have Dirk. I think we're gonna have some work, Dirk.
We have some options, definitely.
Absolutely. So if you guys do this, see with Dirk, and maybe you guys vote something. Remember, we need somebody who's willing to sell their empty barrels. And Killian Distillery, why not? Whiskey Distillery, products that you love. You throw the challenge at me. And then you know, we have a small marketing team. She's going to be so mad at me saying, I cannot let you do this alone. But I happen to own the company, so I can make that decision. And so we're going to be doing this. And so if you accept, Dirk, to do this, to synthesize and tell me who could have, if you want, we will call the people. But if they have barrels available or not, or if you know that they have barrels available, I like to work with usually 5 to 10 to even 20 barrels. I can do that. And then leave it to me. And my job is to blow your mind. And either next year or the year after, we'll be drinking this together. Is that okay?
Sounds like a plan. So I take the challenge.
All right. So the challenge is on you. And if anybody complains in my company, I'll blame all of you together. Well, that's wonderful. Let's do that. I love this, and then we'll be making it. And if some of you visit Cognac, you can taste it as it's making. But we need to find somebody who's willing to either sell us the barrels or swap barrels. Like I don't know St. Killian Distillery myself, but if they're willing to use some of our barrels, we can swap with them. Riesling, I mean, a beautiful German Riesling is incredible wine. So if we do this, I mean, honestly, you don't have to twist my arm, but we need somebody who's aging their Riesling in the barrel, and they're willing to tell me when they empty the barrels in advance, so I get the barrels super fresh, right? Because what we talked about, you know, we're gonna have to be able to do that right. But that's as we say in English, a low-hanging fruit. You know, that's you know, it's never easy, but that's I know is gonna be beautiful. And beer, beautiful. I mean, Germany's, you know, beer better than I do. So if you feel, beer is very difficult for rum, by the way, but I've learned how to do it. I screwed up a few barrels before I got it right. And so a nice IPA, delicious as well. But I need, again, to do either I send some of the rum, we put it in a barrel and ship back the barrels, so it keeps it fresh instead of using other chemicals. Just the rum works the best. So you guys seems to be a very imaginative crew. So So this is the challenge we have now, and we're going to do this for you.
All right.
Very good.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody, and really again, and that was exciting. That's finished. I'm going to be I'm going to tell my wife tonight. I'm going to say, well, we got some more ideas. She thinks I'm going to be obsessed tonight. All right.
Perfect.
And yeah, port style wines, Franconian winery, port style wine, Hillport. That's very, very beautiful to use. If they have barrels and stuff, same again, try the product, see what they do. And what I'd like to do is, I'll buy some of the, like a few bottles to taste the product, so my imagination can go. I need to taste the product, so I can decide which rum, how long, and all of that. That's important. I get 1 or 2 bottles of what we're talking about, and I'll pay for it, of course. And then that way, once I know this, then I can work on my imagination. All right, and I'll work with my guys from either Barbados, Jamaica, and the team back in Cognac, and we'll make this specific single cast together.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you
great
very much.
evening, and
Merci beaucoup.
I hope you fall asleep. Thank you, with a big smile on your face. I will tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Okay.
much. See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
See you next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you. See you.
Thank you. Bye bye.